Hey guys, welcome to Faith Evolved. This is your host Jay, where I talk about all things spiritual, metaphysical, philosophical, and mental health. And today I'm going to be talking about the theory of everything. Well, at least a theory of what we're doing here on planet Earth. Stay tuned. Alright, so what are we doing here on planet Earth? We come here naked and alone, with no instruction manual, and we go through life. There's no clear direction of what we're supposed to do. And then we die naked and alone. Maybe we're lucky and we're surrounded by family and friends on the way through our 70 to 80 year trip. And maybe we, find some success as the world perceives it. Or maybe we go through life and we become a total failure, and maybe we end up a criminal or in prison or worse, killing people, whatever. There's so many different ways our life can go. There's no guarantee when you're born how you're going to turn out. It's all just literally, a guessing game, really. The entire thing here, we don't even know the purpose of our being here. That's how cut off we are from the universe, how cut off we are from all knowledge. It's like we literally don't even, a lot of us believe that there's a God or intelligent designer behind everything. A lot of us just feel like everything's by chance and evolved from nothing, or the Big Bang, or however you want to describe it. I mean, there's literally no proof of any reason for our existence besides the fact that we exist. And it's like, is there any way to try to decipher what our purpose here is, and what we're actually doing here? So this video is just one other, I'm one of 7 or 8 billion people now on planet Earth, and there's no consensus. Nobody will agree exactly what we're supposed to do here, but I think a lot of us would agree that there's probably a better chance of there being some reason than there being no reason, if you're going to use logic. The fact that things like mathematics, like constants, like 1 plus 1 is always going to equal 2 no matter what. There's no exceptions about that. So we have things you can consider as pretty close to absolute truth, which is the laws of the universe. So yeah, can they be twisted and bent under certain circumstances? Yes, but the variables have changed. If the variables don't change, everything's the same. It's like the vacuum of space. Okay, so we have some proof. At the very least, there are some laws, and laws take consciousness or an intelligent designer. So if you're an atheist, you're probably gonna, at this point, tune out the rest of this video. And again, that's my interpretation of what I perceive with my 5 senses. That there's laws which require some kind of intelligence, which requires consciousness. Well, we are also a consciousness as well. Now, here's the thing. The hardest thing about proving anything is, like, literally, this video you're watching, you could just think of me as just being some kind of simulation. For all I know, I'm talking to myself, and I'm just putting videos out there, and there's a huge simulation of all these things around me that appear to be sentient, appear to be responding to me, but who knows if I programmed them to do that, or maybe I've programmed them to do that and then programmed myself to forget that I did that. And that's kind of where, I think I'm getting to here. I do think that the purpose of our lives is love. And the closest I can come to proving that to you is that we typically all have the same response to love, if we're not already hurt in some other way. But we all pretty much, and when I say love, it's a catch-all for positive emotions about self and or others. It's like when you feel good, and then you think to yourself, wow, I want more of this. And then when you feel lack of good, or in this case, fear, which is the opposite of love, and you feel negative emotions, then you're going to want to avoid that as much as possible. So this is a universal thing, universal across the board. We can all agree that we want to increase the amount of pleasure in our lives and decrease the amount of pain. That is the closest I can get you to coming to the purpose of life. Because if at least one of us could agree with that, yes, that makes sense for me. It's the only thing that makes sense to me is feeling good is good and feeling bad is not. Like, literally, if you were God, what would you choose there to be the choices? Well, if there was no choices at all, that's one thing. When there's, of course, that's the absolute God. There's no contrast, right? There's no bad or good. There's no pain or pleasure. There's neither of that. But when you're in duality like we are here now, when you create a universe of duality, if you were God, what would you want? You would want to feel good. How would you know that you felt good? because you have something to compare it against. So in duality, you have yin and yang, the good and evil. You have to have the contrast to know what that is. And the best way to know what something is, besides just knowing it, is to experience it. So if you know 1 + 1 is 2, or here's a better example. If you know that, steak tastes really good to you, that's your truth, then you had to have experienced eating it at some point to really know it, to really embrace that, yes, I really do like this steak, versus just knowing steak exists. And that, maybe you've heard that steak is good, but until you actually taste it, then you're like, oh, okay, I've experienced that steak actually is good. I knew it existed, now I've actually tasted it and I like it. Maybe you had Brussels sprouts and decided you don't like that, and you had to experience that to know it, other than just knowing that Brussels sprouts exist. So I think the whole point of that is, if we can all agree that we want to feel good, we want to avoid pain, then I think, at the end, fundamentally speaking here, then I think we can all agree that if there was a purpose, that would have to be it. What else would they be? What else would you want? If you're a God, like I said, you'd only want to feel good. You want to avoid pain at all costs. Like, what would be the purpose of God existing if he couldn't feel good all the time, right? But again, there has to be set up a scenario in which, number one, you can experience that instead of just knowing that it exists, that good or evil exists. You have to go through an experience with that to be able to prove it to yourself. Now, another aspect of love is that it has to expand. It cannot keep it to itself. Love is dynamic, as the Urantia book says, and you cannot keep it to yourself and also experience it. It has to be something that you give away so that it can expand. And you can, because when you feel that love for anything, like music, food, whatever it is, don't you want to just share it with somebody else? That actually increases the amount of joy you have. Otherwise, you'd be keeping it to yourself, and then it gets static. It goes stale. But when you spread that to somebody else, you almost get an additional boost on your love. So I think that's also another thing when you think about it as well. Fundamentally, you want to feel good. And number two, good is expansive. It has to be shared for it to really be love. For it to be, not just some kind of static thing, like I said. So what's the second thing you do? You create. And that's what God did. I believe. God, source, or whatever you want to call us, all-powerful being, all-knowing being, have to create other beings to share it with. But you can't do that because he's only, the source. Like, he's everything. How could everything, create another everything? That wouldn't make any sense. It would just absorb within everything. So the only way it works is for some kind of illusory state to be set up where God could subdivide himself into indefinite amount of subdivisions, or whatever you want to call it, individuate. And this is just one experience God is having right now, living through me. And what does that mean? You are the God of experience. Yes, you are the God of experience. I am the God of experience, our own experience. And the whole purpose of it is to expand it. And the way to expand it is to other, illusory of course, persons, souls, beings, who we can share our experience that we've enjoyed with them. So, again, coming down to, the end of the video here, to summarize, I think, again, it all has to do with two things. Again, being able to experience the difference between good and evil, love and hate or fear, to actually know it, and then to expand it, because keeping it to yourself is not good enough. And God had to create such an environment where an illusion of separation could take place for us to individuate within, and then we're all, we're all loving each other, but we're also loving ourselves when we love each other. So it goes both ways, as Course in Miracles calls it, communication. So anyways, hopefully this makes sense. I didn't ramble too much. And if it's your first time here, thank you. Please subscribe to my channel, share it as well, comment below, and hit the notification bell if you want to be notified anytime I release any new videos. And to all my existing subscribers, thank you from the bottom of my heart. God bless.